Why do you think President Trump was so fixated on demonstrating that tattoo on Abrego Garcia's knuckles, purportedly, according to ABC and others, photoshopped? Why was he so intent on proving it was not?
Because the administration, it follows in this overall strategy where the administration has tried to turn this from a legal argument to an immigration argument.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law.
Do you hear that? Listen to what he says here.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law.
The Democrats, the media, they're falling apart. They're unraveling. They're becoming unglued, unhinged, more so than they have been in the past. Insinuating that President Trump, you're the president. You can do anything you want. Not so much. According to some district court judges, apparently he cannot.
All right, another judicial pushback against President Trump's immigration crackdown. This comes after dozens were arrested in January during Border Patrol's Operation Return to Sender, where agents rounded up people determined to have entered who were determined to have entered the country illegally. Yesterday, California District Judge Jennifer Thurston demanded CBP agents cannot arrest suspected illegal migrants without a warrant or reason to believe the person is a flight risk before they can get one.
But better yet, if he could, then you would label him a dictator. Which one is it, folks? I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if ABC thought that this was going to be a win by Trump allowing them the opportunity to have this interview on the first 100 days. But if he doesn't get sued, he's going to get fucking fired.
You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he is.
Supreme Court says what the law is.
Listen, I was elected to take care of a problem. It was a unforced error that was made by a very incompetent man, a man that turned out to be incompetent, that you always said was wonderful, great genius, right? And now you find out, all of the media now, they're saying what a mistake they made. A man who was grossly incompetent allowed us to have open borders where millions of people flowed in. I campaigned on that issue. I wouldn't say it was my number one issue, but it was pretty close.
Right up there.
I campaigned on that issue. I've done an amazing job. I have closed borders. He said you couldn't do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would never happen. Well, it happened, and it happened very quickly. Wait a minute.
I think there's no other way to look at this first 100 days other than a huge success. I mean, I know what you're talking about in terms of the polling and the approval rating, but look at the president's two top issues, immigration and inflation. Border crossings are down 99%. I spoke with President Trump on Sunday. He told me 3 people were apprehended at the border in the month of April, compared with 248,000
it's remarkable.
in the month last year, 1 year ago. That's the, migration and immigration story. Now let's take a look at inflation. You and I talked about eggs a long time ago. The price of eggs are down 50%. Look at where mortgage rates are down. Look at oil prices are down. So when you take a look at what President Trump said that he was going to do, it is a huge success in terms of these first 100 days.
Scott Jennings, I'm sure you disagree, and you're at that happy rally. What's your reaction to what you've heard so far?
Well, I disagree with Van that nobody voted for this. I just talked to, several dozen people here who are more than happy with what's happened over the last 100 days. I was asking people, what's your proudest moment for the 100 days? A lot of people said the border. They're extremely happy with immigration. But a lot of people told me the tariffs. They said they were waiting for someone to come along and rebalance the scales because they believe the United States has been taken advantage of, and only Trump had the guts to come along and try to rebalance the scale. So I'm not sure it's as unpopular, at least among his base, as maybe Van and Alyssa want you to believe. Looking forward, though, I do think he has some opportunities here. You started to hear him talk about it tonight on the issue of taxes. He is going to draw, and I picked this up on my travels with the president today, he's going to draw a bright line between the Republicans and the White House who want to cut your taxes and the Democrats who are, he says, running to raise your taxes. I think just the general income tax, but then all these other tax cuts that he's proposing. I think for the next 5 or 6 weeks, as he implores Congress to pass reconciliation, it's going to be tax, 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 tax. I'll cut them and the Democrats will raise them. That's the message to come.
When we have criminals, murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get them out, and we're doing it.
By law.
And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
wait a minute.
But hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. And Squirrel Tribe says, Democrats lying is as easy as breathing to them. Look here at this holy shit post from Nick Sortor, by way of New York Post. Holy crap. The ex-husband of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife said in a 2018 court filing, he was worried for his kids' lives because she was dating a gang member. Yet more evidence that the man deported to El Salvador was in fact a violent gang member. Simply put, the Democrats lied to you, just like they always do. End of story.
He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
He had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshopped. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. I picked you, Terry. But you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was Photoshop? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir.
Terry,
I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
This guy's like, look, Trump, it's clear as day. Look at his hand in El Salvador. Look at his hand as he's grabbing that margarita glass with Chris Van Hollen and kicking back a few margaritas, and, till their clothes come off. They're not there. The margaritas in their hands with the straws in them, they're not there.
No,
but
they're in your picture.
Terry.
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that,
Why don't
sir.
you just say, yes, he does?
By continuing to accuse Mr. Abrego Garcia of being a member of MS-13. The evidence that the government and law enforcement relied on for that has been the subject of scrutiny from a federal judge. It relies on an informant. It also overall relies on these tattoos. The president previously posted on social media a photo of Mr. Abrego Garcia's knuckles, and it had symbols on his knuckles, and appeared to also then have a sort of translation on it. Now, while some say that those symbols are representative of MS-13, we have talked to many law enforcement experts that have said that tattoos solely are not enough to justify identifying somebody as being a member of a gang. That being said, the scorecard that ICE uses, that we've obtained, actually puts a lot of points on whether or not somebody has tattoos, as well as their choice of clothing and other ICE work as well.
Kilmar Garcia Abrego's tattoos are fast becoming the 2025 equivalent of Hunter Biden's laptop. The media are moving from refusal to cover to denial at a similar pace.
I understand you just had a phone call with a new Canadian premier, and they just had this election.
Yeah.
You were a big issue in it, and Canadians, many of them, are really angry, furious about your talk about we're going to take over Canada, it's going to become the 51st state. And it kind of is of a piece. A lot of travel is down into the United States from around the world. It feels like there's been reputational damage.
The country's doing great.
Without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce my husband, the Prime Minister who will make Canada strong. And Canada for!
The country is doing great, and the only folks that would disagree or say otherwise are in denial or completely delusional of the fact. And honestly, I can believe it, especially reading comments like these on my own videos that say Trump is no good for this country and look out for the downfall. Schumer should retire and let some younger people take over. Yeah, about that.
That one's going to stick with me for a while because that's pretty harsh. But Don, it is not all good news for Democrats. We have to point this out because the Washington Post poll shows Americans still trust Trump over congressional Democrats when it comes to dealing with the country's major problems. And they see Democrats as being a bit more out of touch.
And might I just point out here that this isn't actual news reporting or journalism. This is pure disappointment, as you can hear it in this woman's voice, of the fact that Americans still support and believe and trust President Trump, despite the media and the left and the Democrats' attempt to change their minds and their opinions of what's true and fact, all based on lies and clickbait and fake news headlines.
How did Democrats convince voters they can and will fight for them?
Well, Democrats are looking for a champion, and I continue to suggest here and other places that that champion is likely going to come from somewhere outside of politics. I don't know if Stephen A. Smith is the answer, but I can tell you that the American people are looking for that muscular, kind of masculine-based answer.
I was like, well, I think, one, there was, to your comment, there was a transfer of support from the LGB to the T because it's all one acronym. But I think, two, there was another lesson that people had in that moment, which was they were like, I remember not understanding gay people. And because of that, I remember being wrong on marriage. And I don't want to be wrong again just because I don't understand trans people. So I'll get on board with trans rights, even though I don't understand trans people. We didn't do the necessary work that the gay rights movement had done over a period of 20 years of deepening understanding of gay people so that the support for marriage was built on genuine understanding. We didn't do that work because we thought we were past it.
This is a Congress that is hell-bent on passing a heartless budget that would result in the largest cut in Medicaid in American history. All to just partially pay for tax cuts for Donald Trump's billionaire best friends. Medicaid is a lifeline that this Republican majority is trying to rip away from millions of Americans. Shame! And we are here because we will not let them. We will not let them get away with policies that are a matter of life and death for our constituents. If you are someone who voted against this president in the last election, we're here to fight for you. If you're someone who didn't show up in the last election because you believe that politics couldn't work for you, we're here to fight for you. And if you are someone who voted for this president in the last election and you don't like what you are seeing, we are here to fight for you. Because what is clear is that Republicans in Congress and this administration don't care about anyone but billionaires that fund their campaigns. They are willing to hurt everyone. People who voted against them, and yes, people who voted for them. All to help the wealthiest among us. Shame! But we are here because we know, as Senator Booker reminded us, that the power of the people is greater than the people in power.
You think anybody is ever upset that they actually voted for a man when they voted for Sarah McBride? I don't even know what the name was before that, but you think that they're like, how can you tell us that we could honestly, like, this is what we voted for when no one actually voted for Sarah McBride? Is that, I don't understand it. I don't even want to try to understand it.
And, we honestly have nobody right now on the left with the individual magnitude to match the bully pulpit of the presidency. So I think the search is going to go on for some time.
Donald Trump spent the last year and a half questioning the cognitive ability of President Joe Biden, notwithstanding many of the legislative accomplishments that Donald Trump could only wish he got over the finish line.
Easter Sunday, we celebrate his glorious resurrection and proclaim, as Christians have done for nearly 2,000 years, he is risen. Through the pain and sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, we saw God's boundless love and devotion to all humanity. And in that moment of his resurrection, history was forever changed with the promise of everlasting life. As we approach this joyous Easter Sunday, I want to wish Christians everywhere a happy and beautiful and blessed holiday. America is a nation of believers. We need God. We want God. And with his help, we will make our nation stronger, safer, greater, and more prosperous, and much more united than ever before. Thank you to everyone, and have a really happy Easter.
And so I think it's fair that a lot of Americans across the country that I run into are questioning whether Donald Trump is actually fit at this point to be able to carry out the duties of the United States of America in terms of being the president and the commander in chief. Then again, we know that this is someone who has spent a lifetime lying in every aspect of his life, and he lies seamlessly.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. I don't trust you. I don't trust a lot of people. I don't trust you. Look at you. You come in all shooting for bear. You're so happy to do the interview.
I am
and
happy.
Then you start hitting me with fake questions. You start telling me that a guy whose hand is covered with a tattoo doesn't have the tattoo. You know.
All right.
I mean, you're being dishonest.
No, I'm not.
Let me
No,
just
I am
tell
not,
you,
sir.
do I trust? I don't trust a lot of people, but I do think this. I think that let's say he respects me, and I believe because of me, he's not going to take over the whole. But his decision, his choice would be to take over all of Ukraine. Okay. It's a war that never should have happened.
Then again, we know that this is someone who has spent a lifetime lying in every aspect of his life, and he lies seamlessly.
What does that look like in terms of manifesting itself in 2028 candidates? I'm not exactly sure, but I do know there's no individual member of the House or individual member of the Senate right now who would fit the bill, because we simply don't have the significance of platform to match the White House. Glad to see Hakeem and Cory Booker out there doing their thing right now, but it's hard to suggest that that will match even the magnitude of a basic White House press conference. So Democrats, I think that the bench is open, and broadly, we're looking for leadership, and it should be extremely inclusive and provide a broad opportunity for a lot of people to step up, even if that means they're coming from outside of the traditional realms of political.
You know, Matthew, as we're looking at this live picture being provided to us, what do you think of these two lawmakers and the efficacy of what they're doing? Is this going to sync up with people? Or are they going to say, oh, yeah, we see the Democrats doing what we want them to do?
Well, though, that's a good question, and I don't know. I think what Cory Booker did in his, 24-hour-long filibuster, I think, motivated people, especially the base in this, and made people pay attention.
And ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the Democrats' voter base.
My denture just broke. And I'm not in the position to buy another one, but I'm going to have to go find another one. And hopefully I can find someone to help me fix it, because I don't even know what I'm going to do. I can't even get it out. My teeth broke off the front of it. This is what I look like without my denture. If anyone knows anywhere where I can get this fixed, please help me quick. I just canceled my day, and I'm so embarrassed for y'all to see me like this, but I don't maybe there's an emergent dental place. I don't know. If anyone, please, like, share, post this. If someone knows somewhere, because I gotta work. I just canceled my day, but I can't afford to cancel my day. Please let me know if y'all know somewhere I can go get this fixed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area today.
And the caption or description reads here from Liberocrat and says, well, for starters, maybe stop paying for your nails, then go and get yourself a job. Set money aside, and then you can go fix your dentures instead of begging for money on social media.
Scott Jennings, really great.
Thank you. Michigan. We were flying in here today, and I said, look at these farms. I got to get a farm in Michigan, because when you own as many libs as I do, you got to put a place to put them all. Thank you all very much.
And speaking of denial, I heard a statement yesterday, the day before maybe, I can't remember. But I've heard it more than once. And the simple fact of the matter is everybody's broke. Now, we will come back to that in just a moment. But first, the denial that we hear most often is how President Trump's policies aren't working. They're disastrous. They're tearing us apart. They're ruining the global economy. They're crashing, tanking our economy, our stock market, and everyone's going to be broke.
I got to say just one thing about today's news. That's the best negative print I have ever seen in my life. And the markets need to look beneath the surface of that. We had a 22% increase in domestic investment. That is off the charts when you strip out inventories and the negative effects of the surge in imports because of the tariffs. You had 3% growth. So we really like where we're at now.
Well, first of all, Ford is really different. We make 80% in the U.S., more than any other manufacturer. In fact, we made 400,000 more vehicles than our next competitor, and that would fill up the entire island of Manhattan. That's how big of a gap we've made. So, look, we think this is really great for the country. We really support the president's initiative. We never left the America on car production, and so this moderation is reasonable. I think for mostly our competitors. They need more time, but at Ford, we're in good shape. And this is the right thing to do. We really appreciate the dialogue we've had with the president, but we have a lot more work to do with him and the team.
Well, that being said, I just bought a Chevy, but we do own a Ford, so I'd say we're in pretty good shape, right? I'm not entirely sure about Jim Farley's claim because Tesla is not only still pulling strong here in my Robinhood portfolio, according to this stock price, and the stock market is collapsing, but also from the standpoint of the percentage of their vehicles that are American made. They are quite possibly the highest in the country, but maybe Jim Farley doesn't consider Tesla to be a direct competitor. Maybe.
We are. We're building a new plant in Ohio and Tennessee. We're number 2 to Tesla on electric. We're number 3 to hybrid to both the Japanese competitors. We're investing across these different kinds of powertrains. We're kind of the only one who offers all of it. You can get electric F-150, a hybrid F-150, a V8 F-150, EcoBoost F-150, and we don't really care. We just want people to have the choice. So we're building 2 brand new factories in the U.S., and we're the most American already. As far as parts are concerned, that's a good question. Now, we have a lot more work to do to, can we even do this, that 15 or 20%? And that's what we have to work through. Look, we're expecting our competitors to do what Ford's already done, which is to localize more production like this plant here in Kentucky.
With respect to China, look, Jim, we know that China cheats us. We know that we use tariffs to defend ourselves against that cheating. And what we're trying to do with China as well as the rest of the world, get the tariff barriers down, get the non-tariff barriers down, and we do that with the strategy we're adopting. And I think it's working beautifully. We've had, they're taking numbers, it's like you got to go in and get a number now to get a meeting with the USTR, the United States Trade Representative, in order to make a deal. So all that's going to be great. So let's see what happens there.
I think these kind of things are much better than speeches on the House floor or the Senate floor. I think those things are so distant from where Americans are, but these kind of things relate more to the American public in the course of this. And I would say one thing about those poll numbers about Trump versus the Democrats. This isn't going to be Trump versus the Democrats. This is going to be Democrats versus the Republicans. And if somebody's unhappy with two people, they're going to vote the people that hold the office out before they take it out on the people that don't hold the office. And so Donald Trump has always been successful in his own reelects. And no matter what he says, he's not going to have another one. It's the Republicans, as Susan said, it's the Republicans in the House and the Senate who are going to take the brunt of this, what Donald Trump has done.
There's another faction here to discuss, Susan. With Trump losing support with some key groups, he has only 33% approval among independents. So talk about that and the role they may play.
Well, I think that those independents are critical for the Democrats to take the midterm elections, especially in the House. However, going to your question to Don, what are the Democrats going to offer?
And ironically, there is some truth to that statement because look here as Beyoncé struggles to attract fans to her latest concert series, as ticket prices plummet with stadiums failing to sell out. So apparently the only women who even showed up was a group of large heifer cattle ranchers / part-time nuclear physicists and or astronauts who somehow managed to get Ticketmaster to accept EBT in a barter or trade for this lame-ass concert. I mean, come on, what's a Beyoncé concert without her headliner, Kamala Harris, right? Watch as this, blurred and partially censored for YouTube, fight breaks out in what can only be described as the VIP lounge during opening night of Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter tour at SoFi Stadium. A group of women in denim and cowboy attire began arguing before the fight turned physical. And then one woman, who chose to avoid repaying student loans to attend this shit show, just knocked another's cowboy hat off. The same woman who knocked the hat off shoved another woman to the ground twice, and then 3 more women joined the fight, and another was also shoved down. How classy.
And that is something we're seeing a little bit of pushback or give and take within the Democratic Party. You have Bernie Sanders talking about oligarchy and Senator Slotkin from Michigan saying we need to move off of that message. So the Democrats definitely need to, I like what Don said, be a bigger tent. It can't be extreme left or moderate that you one or the other. It has to somehow weave something into both.
Okay. Don, Susan, and Matthew, please stay with me because later this hour we are going to discuss something that is happening politically, which makes...
Yeah, and we need to discuss something that's happening politically or, I don't know, maybe, or maybe it's hypothetically. As I've often felt that the generality and the overwhelming exaggeration of some sensationalized catchphrase wasn't actually true. But now I actually have proof to support my claim, my theory. I'm going to share that with you guys. And so the idea that everybody is broke is a generalization that doesn't even come close to holding up when you look at the data. Wealth and income inequality are real. Some people are drowning in debt while others are sitting on piles of cash. In the U.S. alone, for example, the Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances showed that the top 10% of households held 76% of total wealth, while the bottom 50% held just 2%. Median household debt was $153,000, but plenty of folks have no debt at all. And globally, the picture varies wildly. Per capita GDP in places like Monaco is over 200,000, while in Burundi, it's under $300. Still, the sentiment comes from somewhere, right? Stagnant wages, rising costs for housing and healthcare, and student loan debt burdens make it feel like everyone's struggling, especially younger generations. In 2023, U.S. credit card debt hit $1 trillion for the first time, and 60% of Americans reported living paycheck to paycheck in some polls. But everybody? Nah. The ultra wealthy are doing just fine, and even middle-class households in many countries have more assets than they think. Home equity, retirement accounts, etc. Or etc. One or the other. If you're hearing this idea tossed around, whether it be on social media or just in your circles, it's likely amplified by frustration and selective storytelling. People post about their struggles, not their savings, and check the data yourself. Look at wealth distribution reports or posts from financial analysts for a clearer picture. And if you want me to dig even deeper into this specific stat or dive deeper into the conversation, then just let me know. I mean, this is what I go over and I talk about with people on a regular basis. Friends, family, clients, consulting, starting channels, building businesses, side businesses, making money, increasing income and revenue. But here's the deal, and I'm just going to tell you guys flat out, this is as simple and easy as I can put it. Everybody's broke, right? Well, at the same time, everybody's not broke. It just kind of depends on who you are, where you are, how you feel, and what you want to believe and think. However, if you want to increase your earnings and increase your revenue and no longer be broke, then more than likely you're going to probably have to change some of the things that you've been doing that are keeping you broke, or at least making you feel broke. That may include changing your friends and changing your job and overall literally just changing the way you think on a daily basis. Improving your knowledge and increasing your education, especially from the standpoint of now where a common discussion and point of contention is student loan debt. And by the way, folks, it doesn't just get erased in a bankruptcy that simply, that easily. I'm very pleased to see that this was added as a community note on a post on X, but that's besides the point. That's another topic of discussion for a completely different video. This is not my sales pitch to entice you to come over and join my membership group or buy a course that I don't actually have for sale. It's literally just trying to prove a point and debunk a myth, a fake news narrative of everybody's broke, because I can assure you they are not.
Well, prices are down. Not the tourism. Gasoline's down. Energy's down. Tourism is going to be way up. Wait till you see the numbers. The tourism is way up.
Not now.
Now, Canada, tourism's doing very well. We're doing very well. We're doing very well. Wait till you see the real numbers come out in 6 months from now. Wait till you see the numbers.
But do you think, I'm going to ask you, if I may, do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across a stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right.
Here's the moral to the story, folks. Don't believe the hype. Don't trust the fake news. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear. Hell, you don't even have to take my freaking word for it. But trust but verify. Become your own expert and gauge for yourself. I do have a lot of faith and trust in President Trump. Why not? But even still, it all impacts us differently, physically, financially, emotionally, you name it. But I can guarantee you this. I'm not going to believe a word that comes out of ABC, MSNBC, or any of the mainstream media news outlets. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. That being the case, here's the end of this video, the last clip I have to show you. I look forward to reading your comments, and if you subscribe, thanks for subscribing.
Thank you.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst, I have to be honest with you.
Thank you for the opinion, but more importantly, thank you for having us here. I have one more question. It's a big one. It's a question that a lot of people have out there. What do you say to people who are concerned you are seizing too much power and becoming an authoritarian president like we haven't had before?
No, I would hate them to think that. I'm doing one thing. I'm making America great again. We have a country that was failing. We have a country that was laughed at all over the world. We had a leader that was grossly incompetent. He should have never been there. The election was rigged. He should have never been there. Our country suffered greatly, and now our country's coming back like nobody can believe. I have editorials just today where they're saying they've never seen anything like it. They love it. Our country's coming back, and we're respected again.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Terry, very much.